and welcome to the Oakles channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. Today focus on a game called Super Star Wars Return of the Jedi for the original Game Boy. Now, it's a little bit different than the first two Star Wars games on the system because those were ports of the NES games of the same title, and this is going to be port of the SNES game Super Star Wars, hence the reason for keeping the Super in the title. However, this game here is not going to be as adventurous or as dynamic or as variety driven as the first two games on the Game Boy. This one here is just pretty much a straight action platformer almost the entire time, and overall it's a okay game, but it does feel sort of held back by trying to mimic the SNES counterpart a little bit too close. But we're going to journey through all that and more as we journey through Super Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Now, this particular game did get moved up in the queue a good bit because Nathaniel Miller requested I cover it sooner than later, so I just moved up in the queue. To the game that you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below, and just like Super Star Wars, I'll move it right on up. Now, let's start the videos up with the box art for the game first, and the box art here is pretty much the same as the movie poster, same as the SNES game, and pretty much has all the core Star Wars heroes and villains right there on the cover. It doesn't have the Emperor, I just realized, which is sort of odd because the Emperor is a core villain in Return of the Jedi, but he's not anywhere to be seen on the cover there. But pretty much everybody else that you can possibly imagine is on the cover for this. But if you're buying this game, you're already a fan of Return of the Jedi. You know what you're looking for, and they're pretty much selling directly to Star Wars fans. Now, when you load the game up here, if you weren't tired of seeing the movie poster yet, get ready to see it again in true 8-bit black and white format. And you can see once again all the core heroes and villains right there on the cover. Nice little Star Wars chiptune playing in the background. I can't tell if it's really any different than the first Star Wars games or Empire Strikes Back. I mean, it's Star Wars in 8-bit format. It sounds pretty good. And when you start up here, it does have a pretty impressive cutscene. It doesn't go through like the whole scrolling dialogue like the first two games. It basically just says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars, and then we get more of a dynamic opening cutscene here, and it really does look pretty impressive. You have like little TIE fighters flying off in the background, the scrolling planets as well, scrolling landscape, scrolling past all the stormtroopers telling the overall story of Return of the Jedi. The cutscenes are going to look pretty good for the Game Boy. And then we get to our character select screen. You can choose from Luke, Chewie, or Leia. Luke is going to be handling the lightsaber, has a double jump which allows him to spin the lightsaber around. Chewie is equipped with a blaster instead of a lightsaber. Does have a double jump, but not like a cool attack animation for that. And Princess Leia has what I assume is like a staff. It could be a double-edged lightsaber like Darth Maul, but I really doubt that since that didn't really come around until episode 1. A few years after this game. So it's probably like a staff, and her moveset is pretty much identical to Luke's in every way. And so you do get to choose which character you want to play as, but it's not going to make a ton of difference as you're going through here. The first level is going to be Tatooine, and the controls are very simple here. A is going to be your attack button, and B is going to be your jump button, and press it twice in a row to get your double jump, that little jump attack as well. And for the most part, it's going to be a standard platformer journeying from the left to the right, but there are some variations as far as like the vertical scrolling here. Now, as far as the enemies go, you do have a good bit of variety. You have these little plants that are trying to attack you. You have these charging bulls, which I don't think the bulls were in the Star Wars movie, but I could be wrong on that. You also have the Jawas who are going to try to attack you. You have these little flying buzzards that come down and try to grab you up and carry you away. These little blobs on the ground, little porcupines. I mean, there is a great deal of variety, but I'm just simply not sure how much of it is directly from the Star Wars universe. But at the same time, like as you're going through here, you're going to notice like the graphics are trying to be very, very detailed, and it's almost like they did overkill on some of these sprites. Because they put so many pixels in such a small area, it sometimes comes off looking like a blurry mess, and so it doesn't look as good as I think they hoped it would look. But it's not a bad looking game, and it's pretty a standard platformer as you're journeying through here. If you do find R2-D2, it's going to be like your checkpoint as you're journeying through the level, and for the most part, it just feels like a standard platformer here. Now, when you get to the boss, it's going to be the little laser shooting ball, and that's also from the movie here. And I had a great deal of trouble with this laser shooting ball, and I guess I shouldn't even say laser shooting because it never actually shoots a laser at you. I just remember that from the film. But the ball more or less just sort of scrolls left to right and comes down to the ground a little bit and makes rocks fall from the ceiling, and it's fairly hard to avoid this. And so I was really trying to like sneak in there, get an attack, and back away. And I lost my life of Luke. I tried with Chewie, lost my life of Chewie. I tried Princess Leia, lost my life of Princess Leia. I ended up having to like retry the entire level all over again. Went through it a second time with Princess Leia. Really was no different for the overall platforming part, but I finally figured out like when you get to the actual boss here, if you just simply don't try to dodge as much and just sort of lay into the boss, if you have full health here, you're going to be able to take the boss out pretty much first try and very, very quickly. And so that's my recommendation on it. But otherwise, this is actually one of the harder bosses in the game, pretty much right out the gates. And when you finish it up, you get a little cutscene, and then you journey off into level number 2, which is going to be the dance hall. Now, as far as like overall graphics in the game, I feel like dance hall is probably the best looking level that we have here, because the background animation is just simply light enough to sort of separate from the foreground to give it a sort of dynamic effect. And all of the enemies, for the most part, are much easier to see and actually understand the animations for them. You have these little hopping toes that can come through, these orc-like creatures throwing axes at you. There's like little slimy fellas popping out trying to shoot you at the same time. You also have the Medusa-like lady from the film. I don't recall her name, but I know she was for sure in Return of the Jedi. And when you get to the close of the level, you actually get to see Han in a little cryogenic frozen chamber here, and he gets to fall out when you rescue him. And so like this level here is very accurate to the movie. Looks fantastic, background, foreground, enemies. This here is what the game should have been as an overall, but it just feels like it sort of lost their way at a couple points here. You get a little cutscene of Han and Leia recognizing each other, and then you have to go up against the giant beast or giant monster from the film as well. And at first, I like made this fight way more difficult than what it had to be. I thought you had to like hit the stones or the rocks and knock them back at him with your lightsaber. Not at all. You simply go up and sort of get beside him and just start slicing away, and you have him taken out in literally no time. But I will give him credit. He is one of the cooler looking enemies throughout the game. Now the third level here is going to be a sail barge, and for the most part looks like a giant factory that you're journeying through. However, it's in this level I do start to realize like it's easier just simply to run past the enemies instead of engaging with them, because if you engage with them, you're probably going to get hit in the process. Even if they drop a heart, refill your health, you're probably going to get hit in the process. Where if you just simply run past them, you'll probably avoid most of the enemies. You can avoid and just hop over their shots and hop over their sprites here. And you probably won't get hit too many times, or at least fewer times than if you try to engage them. So for the most part, these levels are going to be easier if you just simply rush through them. But as you're rushing through them, you might miss some of the individual Star Wars sprites. So if you want the individual overall atmosphere of Star Wars, take your time. If you're just simply trying to beat the game, go ahead and take your little sprint here. But as far as the enemies, you do have more stormtrooper-like soldiers all throughout. A good variety of different ones here. You also have this cool-looking robo spiders going to try to attack you. And I don't recall that from the film, but I liked the way it looked. Looked like more like something out of RoboCop or something. And I did like in this level here that you can actually destroy parts of the environment in order to access like secret areas. Like the little bridge here, you can destroy it, hop down, get a heart to refill all your health here. So I do like the idea that the environment is somewhat malleable as you're journeying through. But when you get to the first boss here, you have to go up against Boba Fett. And really simple, he just sort of flies around the sky and you wait for him to land and once again slice away. And then you go up against Jabba the Hutt, and he's just his normal giant bulbous self. Flopping across the screen here, and you really just sort of get behind him and once again slice away. The enemies are not too bad unless you're playing on Jedi mode, which we're going to get to in a second because we do go through Jedi mode as well. Now level 4 here, you're going to be racing through the forest of Endor, and they did try to mix the gameplay up a little bit, but I found this level to be very, very annoying because you're journeying through and you're trying to avoid the trees that are coming at you, and as well as trying to avoid the little stormtroopers on their hovercrafts as well. And for the most part, like you see a heart over there, you rush over to get the heart, and it's usually like a trap because as soon as you get the heart, a tree pops up. It's almost unavoidable here. You can also go up like to the upper part of the screen, the bottom part of the screen to avoid like fallen logs and fallen trees. However, like it sort of like throws the I don't know, perspective off, because it almost makes it feel like you're going more to the forward of the horizon, because the enemy stormtroopers they can go forward to the front of the horizon, but you can't. And I don't know, it took me a lot longer than it should have on this level. There are unlimited continues, which does help a lot in this game, so you're probably not going to like ever lose the game. It's just simply going to cause some players to possibly give up out of frustration. But this level here is just simply not my favorite in any form or fashion. And then level 5 is going to be the Ewok village. You actually play as an Ewok here. You got your little laser blast gun. Very similar normal enemies, except the addition of like maybe I think a bat in this level as well. Really nothing to write home about. Not the best looking level, you know, very plain background, especially when compared to something like the dance hall earlier. It really felt like it sort of got lazy on this particular one, because really like how hard it would have been to put like some sort of background behind like a little bridge you're journeying across to make it look a little more alive. But regardless, when you get to the close of it here at the first boss, you're going to go against like a little probably stormtrooper on a hovercraft. Even though it doesn't look like a stormtrooper, it looks more like just like a regular old robot. It's been a while since I've seen Return of the Jedi, so this is very well possibly in the movie. I just don't remember, but just sort of aim at an angle, and he's very easy to finish off here. Then level 6 is going to be the power generator. You play as Han here, another factory-like level. I don't really enjoy factory levels in games in general, and these are no exception here. Plenty of robo enemies throughout, and lots of different platforms as far as like little elevators you can ride up, or like little platforms you're going to go up and down. Not too hard until you get to the outside of the factory, and when you get on the outside of the factory, there's a lot of blind jumps here. but if you just sort of notice like the pattern of what the blind jumps are going to be, it is a little bit more easy to manage, but there are tons of like little turrets that are firing at you. Luckily, there's no knockback damage. It's going to knock you off the platform, and so that is a plus here, but it is tons and tons of shots that are being fired at you. I did notice if you're playing as Han, you sort of let him sit there for a little while. He does like sort of throw his hands off to the side like, what do you want me to do? And it's very much of a Han move to do, and I like that they added that little extra personality in here as well. And when we get to the boss, it's going to be one of the most frustrating bosses in the game. It's a giant laser gun, and you're having to hop on these little platforms that are scrolling continually down in order to get up high enough to fire at the laser gun. But if you wait too long, you fall off the bottom, you lose a life. But also, if you jump up too high on the platforms, you can also die by simply going out of bounds on the screen at the top, which to me didn't seem like quite fair on this particular boss. But really, if you just sort of make sure you stay in that nice little middle ground here, you can have him taken out pretty quickly, but he is one of the more difficult ones. And then you journey off into level 7, which is going to be the Death Star, playing back as Luke here. And I go back to my old trick of simply running through the level. Tons of elevators, tons of platforms to finally reach the summit. And when you get there, there's a giant mech. And at first, I thought you had to fight the mech, and I ended up dying trying to beat the mech. But I realized, like, after that, if you just simply run past the mech, you don't have to fight him at all. Just like most of the other enemies in the game, you get to Darth Vader here, and you start slicing away. And Darth Vader has a really funny looking move where, like, jumps up in the air, puts his hands up almost like a cat getting ready to pounce on something, or like a vampire trying to spook Luke here. But really a funny animation, but not too hard of a boss. Take him out, and you go up into the next level, which is going to be the tower, and you have to go all the way up to the top of the tower through these different elevators and whatnot to try to get to the Emperor. And the elevators are seemingly normal at first, but when you get to one elevator, has the exact same animation, the exact same distance on the platforms, but you cannot make the jump for the life of you. And so, like, I bet I tried for like a solid 5 minutes before I finally made the jump here. It is like literal pixel perfect on this one particular elevator, which doesn't make any sense because, like I said, it looks exactly the same as all the other elevators. So I think there's like a little bit off in the program of like the hitbox detection of the platform. But it is a very, very difficult jump to make there. And then we journey off into the Emperor's chambers itself, and the chamber looks just like it did in the movie. I love like the little Stargate or the little window in the background. Looks really excellent, and the battle's gonna be pretty dynamic if you're playing on Jedi mode, which we can get to in a second, like I said. But if you're playing on easy mode here, which is the default setting for the game, you just simply slice away, and he's taken out in no time. You don't even have to like move at all. Just stand in one spot and press the attack button over and over. And then we get the iconic scene where Luke removes the mask from Darth Vader, gets to see Anakin for the first time, his father, and a nice little meaningful father-son moment here. And then we're back on the Millennium Falcon trying to escape from the exploding Death Star. And for the most part, this level here is very straightforward. You sort of guide it left and right. Sometimes you have to go up and down to go underneath like different pipes or different platforms. Very easy to maneuver here. And then you journey off into the final level, which is going to be the exact same as the one before. You're guiding the Millennium Falcon out, but there's all these different explosions going off. And no matter how hard I tried to like journey through here, the explosions always got me in like 30 seconds, and I died every single time. And after enough game overs, I looked online, like as far as like long plays, to see what they were doing differently, and the explosions were not in those long plays. They were only on my game. And I was like, well, how is this fair? Like, how am I supposed to beat this level if explosions are constantly killing me? And so then I looked up a walkthrough for the game, and it turns out what you have to do is you have to press the A button down to give yourself like an acceleration, and that's going to boost you past all the explosions, and they simply will not be on the screen anymore. And so sure enough, I pressed the A button. You don't actually speed up at all, and all the explosions disappear, and then you can guide off to safety toward the end of the level. And I have to say, like, if I had not looked up a walkthrough for this, there is no telling how long it would have taken me to figure out that you have to press the A button for some random reason to give yourself a imaginary boost here to get through the level. So I found that to be a little bit on the annoying side. And then when you get here, the Death Star does explode, and it says, now try Jedi mode, and there is no credit or no ending, just simply shows all the core characters there on the planet after the explosion. And I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, so are the credits after the Jedi mode? So then I go back through Jedi mode, and Jedi mode is pretty much exactly the same as regular mode, except for the most part, the enemies give you more damage, and they also take a few more hits to actually take out. And so my journey through here, the levels themselves are very, very similar. For the most part, you can still just sort of rush through the levels. Some of the bosses are a little bit harder, in particular the Emperor toward the end of the game, but I have to say, like, the Emperor's battle made so much more sense. It was so much more fun actually on Jedi mode, actually having to like, you know, maneuver a little bit, trying to avoid his lightning blast and such. And I figured out like he's actually vulnerable, and also you can't be hit when he's not lit up. And you can do like your little hop move and double jump and have like your little lightsaber slice him as you're coming down. A really fun battle once you actually have to fight on Jedi mode. And so I have to say, if you're going to play this game, I would probably just simply go through it on Jedi. That way you get the true ending. And also you're going to get a little bit more challenge instead of simply basically standing in one spot on some of these bosses. Now, when you do defeat him on Jedi mode, the Falcon level is pretty much exactly the same. I couldn't tell any difference in those at all. And then when you get to the final cutscene here, actually congratulates you on saving the galaxy, and then you get a nice little extra cutscene of Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan and their Force Ghost here telling you, may the Force be with you, and nice little Star Wars actual ending. But then when you finish it, the credits still do not roll. And I realized at that point, if you go into the options on the title screen, at that point you can select credits, and that's how you get the credits to roll for the game. And so if you want to like just simply get credits to roll, you don't have to play the game at all. You just simply go to options. But where's the fun in that? Journey through Jedi mode and, you know, get a true ending for this game. But let's talk about this game as an overall here, because for the most part, I feel like it's a straight down the middle platformer. You can definitely tell it's a demake of the SNES game, because like many other SNES games got ported over to the Game Boy. They try to keep all the graphical finesse and whatnot, or fidelity, and they just simply shrunk it down too much, and it came off looking like a blurry mess because the Game Boy can't handle that. But even like the platformer levels themselves, like the idea is you can just simply run past the vast majority of the enemies, and it's actually more in your interest to do that instead of trying to attack and kill them off. It feels like sort of a poor programming to me, or a poor direction in the game. And also the idea like when they tried to break away from the platforming a little bit, like the levels where you're like flying through the forest of Endor, like I don't know, it seemed more frustrating than anything else. And so like the game itself is just simply, it's not a great game, but it's not like broken or terrible or anything like that. And like comparing it to the other Star Wars games on the Game Boy, I think I gave the first one like a 3.5 just simply because of the overbearing difficulty of it. I think I gave the Empire Strikes Back a 5.5 or 6 because I actually really enjoyed that game. Liked all the different force moves, but there's also like a hard lock in the game if you didn't collect things in a correct order and whatnot. So I knocked a few points off that one. This one's nowhere near as bad as the first one. I don't feel like it's as good as the second one. And so I'm probably going to give this one a 5 out of 10. Let's go with a 5 out of 10. I think that's fair for this one. It's just simply a straight down the middle platformer. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check my other videos listed up above and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.